Welcome to Women Insurepreneurs, the podcast empowering female insurance agents to thrive in the industry. Join us as we dive into the world of insurance entrepreneurship, share success stories, and provide invaluable insights through the lens of female entrepreneurship. Let's unleash the power of women in insurance together. Welcome to
Hello.
another
Hi.
episode of Women Insurepreneurs. Sonia and I are going to be talking about what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to be an entrepreneur
Yes,
to
to
us.
really be an
Um,
entrepreneur.
yes, so this is another fun one. I want to start by reading the Google dictionary for entrepreneur because I think it's interesting and I think it hits it right on the head. And according
Mhm.
to Google, it says a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. I mean, that was dead on,
I think
right?
they should include on there not just financial risk, but emotional risk,
Mm-hmm.
physical risk, sleep risk, right? You take on a lot, but that's what it is. It's a risk, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that the people that don't take risks in life, and I've seen it online so many times, right? The people that don't take risk in life end up working for the people that did. And
Yeah.
that's the truth, right? Someone had a dream, someone had a vision, and they took it on and they said, I'm gonna go for it. I don't care if it sounds crazy, I'm gonna do it, right? Everything sounds crazy until they see results and it's like, wow, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I agree. Dead on. They just need to add all
Yeah.
that other stuff in there.
Yeah. Taking on risks in general, I think would have been the best way to explain it. For me, an entrepreneur is like you mentioned this, I think, an innovative thinker, right? So you're constantly seeking new ways to solve problems or meet needs in the market.
Mm-hmm.
You generally thrive on being creative and willing to change the status quo,
Yes.
I think that's a good definition of an entrepreneur, right? Because you're not just there working for someone traditional 9 to 5. You're actually there trying to solve, how can I fill this need?
Oh, I think for me, an entrepreneur pretty much encompasses someone that decided, like you said, I'm not okay with the status quo. Someone that said,
Mm-hmm.
I want better and I'm going to do better. Not just, see, and here's the thing, that it's not just for yourself, right? Because for yourself, you can just do what you want to do and just, you pass away and then you're done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But an entrepreneur, in my vision, is that one, right? Like Ed Milet said, right? You meet someone wealthy, backtrack their family. At some point, that family was not wealthy. But then
Mm-hmm.
one person showed up. One person said, I'm gonna change the dynamic of my family. And I'm just proud to say that in my family, I'm the one. I'm the one that's gone in a completely different direction. I'm the one that's succeeding in what I do because I see a different life for, not for myself, but I see a different life for my grandchildren and my great grandchildren, and it's to the point that it might not, it's to the point that it's impacted my children's life to some extent, but I wanted to really have a huge detour for my grandchildren and my great grandchildren as far as where they end up in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the how I set them up for success and how I set them up as an example of what they can become or what they could do when it comes to their life and their future. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I feel that entrepreneurship should be, as well. The person that changed the lineage of your family.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm all about that. I know, thinking what does it mean to be an entrepreneur is risk taking. It's involving
Yeah.
such a great um, risk, whether it's taking calculated risks or, just kind of jumping in. But entrepreneurs are typically, they're not afraid to step outside their comfort zone, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that failure is often a part of your journey. And not a lot of
Yeah.
people are willing to embrace failure or step outside of their
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone. So that's what it truly means.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to fail, right? But I'm a big believer, and I've said this several times, that you cannot have the testament without the test. Life,
Mm.
life is like the school teacher backwards, right? They give you the test before they even give you the lesson. So I
Hmm.
think that that's another aspect of entrepreneurship where you have to take that risk. You have to fight or flight mode, because when you don't have any other option. That's been my character even as I was younger, right? I always like to take risks. I always like to jump the gun sometimes on things, because I like taking those risks. Sometimes, like you said, a measured and calculated risk. Sometimes they're not. I actually have a tattoo on my arm of dice. Not because I gamble, but I gamble a lot when it comes to my life, right? I used
Mm,
to have this saying when I was younger, like, let's roll the dice and see what happens. So, by any means, anybody that knows me knows that I'm willing to take those risks. I'm not scared of what could happen. I'm more scared of what could have happened when I didn't take that risk.
mm,
That's what scares me the most.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Um, I think that resilience, being resilient, also defines entrepreneurship because,
Oh yeah.
it can be a roller coaster ride with highs and
Yes.
lows, but, successful entrepreneurs demonstrate that resilience, that ability to
Right.
bounce back from the setbacks and using those failures, as learning experiences, learning from your failures. Resilience, yeah, you can't be an entrepreneur without being resilient because you're going to
Oh
get beat up.
yeah.
You're going to
You
get
know,
beat
and
up, but
what a lot of people don't understand is that if you can't go into if you're not ready to go into business for whatever you do, if you're not ready to go into business and lose for the first 5 years, I'm not saying that that'll happen, right? But if you're not ready for that mentally, to lose for the first 5 years of your business, you have no business getting into any type of business, honestly. Because you need to be, like you said, resilient to understand that there's highs and there's lows. Sometimes there's a
mhm,
lot of highs, but unfortunately there's a lot of lows,
yeah.
and people don't understand how many overnight success stories are out there that took 10 years, right? That took 20 years to become an overnight sensation. How many stories do you hear about that? It's like a Cinderella story. Yeah, but you don't know the backdrop of it. You don't know how many years they've been working on this. You don't know how many years they tried. Business after business failed until something hit. And that's just, people don't take that into consideration with when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurs too are typically like visionaries, right? So they typically have a clear vision of what they want to achieve. A lot of times they inspire others, their with their passion and their drive, and they know that they have that sense of purpose. So you mentioned your goal as being an entrepreneur, and I think we have this very same goal, similar goal, if not the same, because I'm doing it for the same reason. I mentioned
Mm,
this before. If you guys are avid listeners, hopefully you are. Generational Wealth Pro is the name of my agency, and the reason that I named it that way is because I too want to change the course of my future kids and their kids' lives. And
mhm.
I also am the only entrepreneur in my family, my immediate family. Everyone else has gone the traditional route.
Yeah,
So yeah, I want to break that, that poverty cycle. I want to break that those strongholds mentally, right? With
yeah,
um, not believing in yourself, or like you see, I think you've said this before, like going against the grain, right? So yeah, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to have vision. You have to
yeah,
be, and you've got to be able to inspire someone at some point, because even if you're a
yeah,
solopreneur, you're convincing someone, whether it's your clients, your partners. If you're an
yeah.
agency builder, you've got to be able to inspire yourself and others at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
exactly. Exactly. It's that inspiration that they see, and potentially set the tone for, as we mentioned, the generations to come, right? Like, wow, grandma did all that. Wow. You know,
Mm,
that's something that I really want to instill in my lineage going forward, and not to, you know, throw shade on my anyone in my family if they chose the more comfortable route, if they chose a more secure route. It is what
mhm,
it is. Um, they're doing great as well. I'm not saying that they're eating out of trash cans or anything, but that wasn't me. That's not my story. I've always wanted more. I've always
mhm,
been the type of person that goes after what I want. Needless to say, being an entrepreneur there was no question about it. Of course, I want
yeah.
to have my own business. And it's funny that my mom, you know, um, I lost my mom at a very young age. But one thing I do remember before she got sick is that she was trying to launch her own business, um,
Mhm,
and do her thing, with her sisters helping her in Mexico, and she wanted to have her boutique. My mom was always, she would sell. right? The multi-level marketing, I don't want to say names, but it was a makeup brand. Another one was a shampoo brand in the 80s. Makeup brand, we all know what I'm talking about, right? All of our tias sold it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So once again, we don't have rights to mention, but I don't want to get us in trouble. But she did that. She also sold shampoo and hair treatments, and she, for a minute there, she sold jewelry. But it's like I just remember that spark in her to go for something else, and it's something that I was born with the same thing, which I'm glad, but it's something in me that doesn't let me settle for less. Like this isn't it. I want
Yeah.
more. I want my kids to have more. I want their kids to have more, and it's something that's in you. And if it's in you, listen to it. Your body tells you and your mind tells you, we need more. And by need, I don't necessarily mean because you want all this material stuff, you want more money. No, it's a
Mm-hmm.
fulfillment, right? It's a sense of fulfillment in you. Like, no, I need to feel fulfilled. There's more to life than working for someone else's company or, being a successful salesperson or um, a successful employee just to build another wing in someone else's house. No,
Yeah.
no, that's not something that I'm willing to do.
Yeah, that's true. Um, I think to be, again, thinking what does it truly mean to be an entrepreneur? A lot of us are problem solvers.
Um,
We typically are identifying challenges and trying to find solutions. We A lot of us, hit the issues head on. We're not afraid. So for me, it's in my personality to the point where outside of work, I have to turn it off because naturally, if someone is, let's say they're venting to me, my
mhm.
brain automatically goes into problem solving mode. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it's like, well, I didn't ask you to problem solve. I just asked you to be
I
there
just
in the
wanted you to
moment and
listen. Yeah.
listen. Yeah. But naturally, I want to solve the problem. Like, I want to
Yeah,
solve the
let me
world's
help you.
problems. Yeah, exactly. That's where my brain goes. So, but with respect to being an entrepreneur, that's useful because that's
Yeah.
what I do all day. I solve someone's problems, whether it's my
Yeah.
appointment setter, an agent that I'm helping, my clients, we're problem solving all day long. Um,
Yes. I think for me, I'm a motivator. I like to motivate people. I like to bring out the best in people, right? Especially women. I like to speak to women. My dream, honestly, my dream and my vision is to one day be able to speak to women that are struggling. Let them know, hey, you got it in you. Wake up. You can do this. I was a single mom struggling, broke, evicted, car repoed, all this stuff, you know? I always say this, but statistically, I'm not supposed to be here. You know, if you look back, statistically, I'm not supposed to be here. Of all the hurdles that I've overcome, I'm here. So that's one thing that I'm also thriving for is to one day be that example, right? Like you said, an entrepreneur is also that, like you said, problem solver, visionary. I want to be that example for some young woman that's struggling with her children, or that's stuck in an abusive relationship, or that's stuck in that abusive home, when their family telling them you're not nothing, you're not going to be anything. No, you are. You're worth it. I want people to understand that they're worth it. And that's what it is, right? When you're a visionary and you know that you're worth going after more, why not? When you know you're worth it, you go after more, so do it, and that's my ultimate goal as well is to inspire and to lead others. Maybe not the long, tedious road that I was on, but some of us do have to go through it, right? Like I said, you can't have the testimony without the test. And sometimes it's that test that brings the best out of you. I'm so thankful for all the hurdles that I've reached in my entrepreneurial journey because it makes me appreciate my business more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, being inspiring others because a
Hmm.
lot of people think, what is my purpose in life, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that part of our purpose, all of us, is to help other people.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned this before, but with the networking event that groups that I had in the past, I remember, and I'll never forget her, a woman that joined on virtually was during the pandemic and she just needed someone to talk to. She was, I think,
Yes, I
living
love
out
that
of her
story.
car. I think she was
Yeah.
living out of her car. She had like a bunch of stuff in the car, and she just said, "You know what? I'm going through it right now. Um, mind you, this was a entrepreneur women's group. This is why we do this. It's so important, by the way. But so she just jumped on and was like, hey, I need someone to talk to. I need someone to, positive. I needed to be in a positive
Mm-hmm.
environment, even if it was just for a few minutes, because she was going through so much. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have access to a Sonia. This is
Mm-mm.
what I think we fail to understand, is that not everybody has access to people that think the way that we do. And it doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that we don't go through things. Um, you and I have been on the journey of entrepreneurship, so we've already proven to be resilient and
Mm-hmm.
persistent. So it doesn't mean, again, that we don't go through things, but at the end of the day, you and I, we're strong. We're going to get over it, right? We're going to
Yeah.
plug through. But there's a lot of people that are not, and maybe they're in a weaker moment in their lives. And I was able to
Mm-hmm.
impact her by putting myself out there as a leader, as an entrepreneur, to say, I'm going to lead this group and open up this group. And I believe that I made an impact in that woman's life. I mean, she was talking, suicide and some really bad
Mm.
things going on. So I was like, wow, I hope I was able to inspire her. And she left with a smile on her face. And I've never forgot her. I think I'll always forever tell her story, because I was like, wow, just the impact that to me shows, okay, what's my purpose? My purpose is to do things like that. It's
Yeah.
not just to be making a bunch of money and hoarding
Mm.
it, or just for me and my family and my future.
Yeah.
It's also to help other people.
Yeah.
And that keeps you, if it's, again, a sustainable why, like we always say, that is so much more impactful than the bags and the purses and the things that are just
Mm-hmm.
material, which are nice, they're great, right? I'm not saying that it's bad, but
Yeah.
I can buy something and then it just sits in the closet and have dust. I'm not going to have a great story to
Yeah.
tell about that bag. This girl, that impact that I was able to make, she impacted me more than ever, because it showed
Yeah.
me that, number one, I need to show up and be persistent and resilient myself, because I can help other people that are way
Absolutely.
worse off than me.
People knowing our entrepreneur journey and our entrepreneurial story, and lets them know, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There,
Yeah.
you could still win this. This is you. You got this. But I mean, once again, not everybody has access to those mentors, to those that guiding light that people need sometimes. That's why I think that channels like this are important. Maybe some people can relate to you. You have your agency, you've been doing this for way longer than I have. And then someone can relate to me. I've only been doing this for over 2 years. So, I don't have an agency. I'm a solo producer, which I'm okay with. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Being able to resonate in someone's vision, being able to be there and be like, I remember her. Like, if she could do it, I know I could do this too. So that's what it's all about, finding that person that's where you want to be, and try to network, try to follow, their light, try to follow their path and see if that could lead you to succeed as well. But yeah, it's especially being an entrepreneur as a female, it's so much more grueling than being just an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's true. And I touched on this a little bit, but passion and purpose. So again, like I said, most entrepreneurs, that passion is what's going to drive them to pursue,
Yes.
their journey, whatever it may be, with that enthusiasm and that dedication. So that's what keeps us going, is right, that we
Yeah.
have that passion and that purpose. And like they say, love what you do and you'll never feel like you're working at. I know
Yeah.
it's not the
You'll
right
never work
phrase,
a
but
day in your
day
life.
in your
Yeah.
life. There you go. Thank you.
If you love what you do, you'll never work a single day in your life. And I love helping people. It's that philanthropic side of me, which I love helping people that need it, right? I think that's why I focus a lot on final expense policies, because I
Hmm.
don't, yeah, IULs is where the money's at, right? And more of a win, but helping the helping that market of people that are more vulnerable, that don't
Hmm.
people don't really reach out to them. I'd rather help them. I'd rather help them set something aside for their family, set something to the side to make sure their family has something to bury them with. Or even annuities. Yeah, annuities may have a great return, but you know, making sure that these people don't run out of money in retirement. They've worked their whole lives. Last thing I want is for them to go be a greeter at some large chain because they ran out of money. I would never want to see that. I would never want to see my own father standing at the entrance of a door or pushing carts because he ran out of money at his retirement.
Yeah.
Luckily for him, he has me, but just, you
Hmm.
know, it's just something that I want to avoid people going through. So I want to help, and I love helping people. It makes me happy.
Yeah. Every entrepreneur that I've ever come across has always had some sort of purpose or vision or, their why. And it sounds so cliche, we say it all the time, but
Yeah.
um
But let me
I,
let me put let me throw something in there as well. Any successful entrepreneur. I've been entrepreneurs that are just going for the buck, and that doesn't last.
mm,
It doesn't last. But any successful entrepreneur is doing something that fulfills something in them. Because at the end of the day, people can say, "Oh, money doesn't buy happiness." You've never had the opportunity to bless another person with what you're
mm,
doing, or bless another person with the money you make. When you do, you realize that it does buy happiness.
even if it's with someone else. But yeah, everyone that I've ever met, again, they've had some sort of, that's I think what separates a person who is just a regular, employee, a regular employee mindset to an entrepreneur is typically that entrepreneur is going to have a vision, right, of what they want to
Yeah.
do, help someone, and maybe their vision evolves. Maybe you jump into it because initially you do need money or want money.
Yeah.
I think that if you're on your journey successfully, like you mentioned, and really trying to find your true definition of why you're doing this, naturally that's going to come out to it's going to unravel. And then you're going to be like, okay, well, I've made the money. Now what? Now I want to pour into people. I want to help people. I want to coach,
Yeah.
mentor. I want to give back to these charities.
Yes.
I remember somebody asked me one time, and this person was struggling with mental health, which I understand is very, very real. But they said, how do you, I forget the exact wording of the question, but it was like, how do you find the motivation to get up? Or like,
Hmm.
why do you do this? Why do you even, like you said, why are you doing these videos? Why are you doing this work? And how do you find that motivation? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, there's nothing in this world, in this life that like you don't relate to anything to say, hey, I
Something.
want to
Yeah.
travel. Like, there's got to be something. Dig deep. And this is why we said on our one of our last episodes, the entrepreneur mindset journey is really sitting down and uncovering first, why do I want to do this? And I think
Hmm.
that's what's gonna help sustain you. But and again, it doesn't mean that because you've become an entrepreneur, you're so strong minded, you're resilient that you're never going to struggle with depression or
Mm.
anxiety or worry. That's obviously, that's a lie. But I think that what it means to be a true entrepreneur is that you're always fighting. You are always
Yes.
fighting. You may have a horrible day, but you're willing to get back up and say, no, I'm not going to.
Mm.
Yesterday is gone. It is a new day. It's a new morning.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's the people that I've been around. I've been around entrepreneurial type jobs since I was 18. They all have that. They all have that where they take a beating one day and then come Monday, they're like, you know what? Dust your shoulders off, right?
It's funny because I'm taken back to when I was a little girl, and I had my Econoline van, Barbie van, right? They don't make it like that anymore, just so you guys know. Anybody out there that could find it, the 80s Econoline van, let me know. Please let me know. I'm looking for it. And it was full of Barbies. So I was a good kid when I was little, so my mom would buy me Barbies, right? So in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna sell these Barbies. So I would line up my Barbies in the front porch in our yard, and have write a little sign that's written by like a fifth grader, not even a fifth grader. Write a little sign that's written by a 5-year-old that said yard sale, and I wanted to sell my Barbies. I was gonna make all this money selling all these used, beat up Barbies. But it was, you look back and it's like, if you ever sold, right? We all sold chocolates, sold stuff.
Lemonade.
Yeah,
At a
we
lemonade
all
stand.
sold. Yeah, well, see, it's like, look back and it's like you want more. And if you look back, you'll see when it started. It didn't just start today. It didn't just start last year. It didn't just start 2 years ago. It started somewhere, because I've had other businesses as well, because
Mm-hmm.
I want to be that entrepreneur. I want to be that business owner. I want to have my own. One thing that I've always said, as you stated, right? Sometimes it starts off as, I need some side income. I've always said one source of income is too close to zero. And I've been in a situation where that one source ran out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, never again. This is never going to happen to me again. I'm always going to have more than one source of income. And that's, that might be what gets you started. But it's like, to know that you're making a difference in your lineage. to know that you can look back and tell those stories. I love telling my children the stories of my mom, of how she sold this, she sold that, and she wanted more. I mean, we're we're economically lower class family, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that grew up in a lower income neighborhood, but my mom never, you would have never guessed it. That woman, it was so classy. She had her pencil skirts, she had her suits. She, you know, just because you're, that doesn't define who you are. Just because you're in a certain geographic location, that doesn't define who you are. It doesn't mean that you're not worth it. I mean, she was an immigrant, you know, mother of three with an unsupportive husband. You know, no shade to my dad, but it's like, you know, the
Yeah.
typical macho, you're gonna do what I say type thing. And once again, this is about changing the lineage of your family. And I think she sparked that in me. She used to sneak out after my dad went to work to go learn English, you know, and she got her basic education diploma from Long Beach City College behind my dad's back, you know, and it's because she saw more. She
Right.
wanted more. And that, if she did all that, I think I could log on for a couple of trainings an hour every day, you know, to make sure I improve my business and improve myself and read a couple of books for self-development. If she was able to do that, why can't
Yeah.
I? Right? So it's something that resonates through the lineage of your family and through generations. I love telling my daughters those stories because, you know, hopefully it sparks something in them that, wow, grandma did all that. And I want to be that grandma, you know, where
Mm-hmm.
my grandkids are like, grandma did all that. Grandma went through all that. And, you know, I want to sit there and say, yeah, your grandpa did this and that, you know, even though, you know, it wasn't an issue, but, you know, it's important to leave that behind because it's not about what I'm building for myself. I already have, if it was just for me, I already have it
Mm-hmm.
to be content. But once again, there's something in me that doesn't allow me to be content with mediocrity. There's something inside me that doesn't allow me to be content for myself. I'm not going to be selfish. I'm going to leave a lasting impression in my family tree, that I
Mm-hmm.
want it to blossom into something else, you know?
Yeah. And I love that you said that, like, if you look back far enough, you'll find where it started.
Yeah,
And I want to say that, like, because a lot of people think, like, we talked about this before, but I want to be an entrepreneur because of, I've gone through the why and I figured out why I want to do it, but I don't know how to do it. Or
yeah,
I don't even know where to begin. That was my story. Because my why comes from my childhood, comes from when I was a teenager. And I love my parents, but there was a time where I sort of had to fend for myself, so to speak. Like I had a roof over my head at all times. Wasn't like out on the streets or anything like that. But to freshman, sophomore year of high school, I had to get a job to be able to buy my little things that I needed. You know,
yeah,
makeup, hair products, and I think that that fear of like not being able to have enough, or you got to fend for yourself, that is what sparked me saying, no, I want to figure something out and change that for my future and for my future kids, because I don't want my kids to go through that.
yeah,
I want my kids to be able to say, at least in high school, I can focus on school. You don't have
yes,
to pitch in and get a job because of whatever the scenario may be. And again, I think if we all can go back to our childhood, we probably all have some sort of, you know, trauma or some sort of sob story. And I love my parents and everything, but it was a little bit rough for me as a teenager. And that inspired and sparked my why to be an entrepreneur. And it evolves. It evolved for me to say, okay, not only now do I want to be able to provide for myself, but I also want to change the course of my future kids and their kids' lives, right? So where
yeah,
they can focus on, like I said, schooling or sports or whatever they want to do without that fear of poverty, or that fear of
yeah,
you can't focus on playing a sport because you got to go work. You know, I don't want them to have
yeah,
to go through that. So once you kind of go through that journey, right, and figure out, okay, what's your true why? I wasn't the best when I first started my journey. I
mm-hmm,
actually sucked, and I heard Kevin on the podcast, on the Life Insurance Academy podcast, and he's like, I still suck, and he's still making a bunch of money now. So
yes,
you can suck and still want to do this. A lot of people think like, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur because I don't know how to do it, or you know, I'm an introvert, or I'm not a salesperson, or there's always going to be these buts.
you know
I
what?
know. your passion, what you're good at, you could fill all of that, the rest of it in.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Let me share a secret with everyone that a lot of people are going to find shocking, especially those that have met me in person. I'm an extreme introvert. I am an extreme introvert, and you wouldn't guess it, right? Because I was in the military, I was a sergeant. I mean, I give presentations, I talk to people, and I'm just always so, I got this, but I am an extreme introvert, but I thrive when I'm an extrovert.
Mm,
I thrive and I feel fulfilled when I'm an introvert. That in itself speaks volumes of how I feel about fulfilling others' cups instead of mine. Because
mm-hmm,
I'd rather just sit at home, don't bother me. Like, let me just stay here, watch TV. I don't want to do anything. Let me be in my own space. But the
mm-hmm.
fact that I want to help people, the fact that I reach out to people, the fact that I like to speak to people, the fact that my ultimate goal is to help others and speak for others, to help them grow as themselves, grow their business, grow their emotional strength, um, be a stronger person, that speaks volumes as to what really fulfills me,
Yeah.
and it's helping other people, not just myself. So
I didn't
it's
know
yeah,
that you were an introvert. I am
I
too. I
am
didn't
a,
know that.
I am an
Learn something new,
extreme,
guys.
yeah, I am an extreme introvert. It's a little secret. Don't tell nobody.
Except
But I
for
am
once
an
we publish this,
extreme,
everyone's gonna know.
yeah. You know what a lot of people don't know? You know who else is an extreme introvert? Ed Milet.
Oh.
People don't know that Ed Milet is another extreme introvert. He said it himself. But just like him, I thrive myself. I mean, it goes to show what really fulfills you. And
Yeah.
look at him, everything he's done, all the podcasts and all the videos and everything that he's done to help people. It
Mm-hmm.
goes to show your true spirit and your true calling is to help
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, you're willing to put that fear aside and say, I'm going to do this because I'm
Yes.
going to help someone. And like we say all the time, your entrepreneurial journey, you grow because
Mm-hmm.
this is not something that I'm typically comfortable with, going on camera, speaking.
Yes.
I mean, I've been introverted my entire life to the point where I would get like crippling anxiety. I remember in high school, like my palms being sweaty and feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack walking down the hallway in school. Like
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous.
Funny that being young, I didn't. I was the baby of the family, so I was always the center of attention. And
Mm.
cameras on, let me put on a show, right? My dad had the big VHS video camera, let me put on a show, right? But now that you said you look back at those, like, I was having issues and sweaty palms, but I pushed past that because I wanted to put on a show,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in reality, I was an introvert. It's crazy that you say that because I myself went through that, right? As
Mm-hmm.
I'm performing, right? I'm feeling anxiety that back when I was younger, who knows what anxiety is, right? When you're young,
Yeah,
you don't know what
you
that
don't even
is.
know.
And back in the 80s, I mean, I just dated myself. Back in the 80s, mental health wasn't as spoken about as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going through it without even knowing it, you know? And now that I'm older and I know how to read the signs and everything, I understand that that's what it was. I was dealing with anxiety, but I was still performing. I was still putting myself out there. I was still being that person. But yeah, it's just crazy because, like you said, you develop and you grow,
Yeah.
because it's what you want more. So you develop and you grow.
And you work on it. You recognize that that's a fear that you have. A saying that I got from Joyce Meyer, but she says, do it afraid. And I love that because I've had to tell
Yes.
myself a lot of times to just press on and press forward. I don't know if people know this, but like I was on the worship team for my church, and every single time it could be a Wednesday service, which was less people, or a Sunday, the same, to the point where I'd have to switch the mic from different hands because I would start to feel that it's like clammy and like I'm gonna drop it.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. And I'm like, I'm going to push through this and I'm going to fight through this. I'm going to teach myself like
Yeah.
to be more extroverted. Like attending networking events in person helped me because my husband, if it was like a co-ed event, he's extroverted. So he'll walk in a room, he's going to start talking to everybody. And I'm like, oh God, what if someone comes to me? Or, you know what I mean? I got to figure this thing out. But I remember like on the days that I wouldn't sing in church, my husband would be like, go back in the green room and say hi to the team. And I was like, no. He's like, why? And I'm like, because I hate this center of attention. I hate knowing
Yeah.
that when I open the door to the green room, whoever's in there, which mind you, it's probably like six people. It's not a lot of people. I just know that the minute I open the door, they're all going to look at me. And that alone, I don't know. I'm like super anxious. I'm like, and
Yeah.
then he started pointing out to me, like, you're struggling with something that other people may not understand. And that can actually be perceived as being rude. You don't say hi
Yeah.
to people. So now they think you're stuck up. So I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So now I have the anxiety of thinking people are going to think I'm
Yeah.
stuck up. So like never
Add
ends.
on to the list, buddy. Add on to the list.
But I was like, you're right. Like, I have to, like, what's the big deal? Like, okay, you open the door, they look at you, and then it's just that first, like, those first
Yeah.
few moments. And then once I'm like, if I'm cool with you or I get past that hump, then good luck trying to shut me
Yeah.
up, But
Yeah.
it's just that initial fear of like
Yes.
walking into a room or starting a speech or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that has
Yeah.
crippled me for a very long time. And then I love to sing and I love to be on the worship team. So once I would get my groove, I'm like, man, I'm letting this fear prevent me from doing something that I love and maybe inspiring someone else.
Yeah.
Because growing up, like you said, I kind of was introverted. I was introverted, period. But I love to sing, so I would put little shows on for my parents. Same thing, they had the
Yeah.
recorder, the camera.
Big
um,
size of a TV, like.
yeah, exactly,
and and now we have our phones that we do.
exactly. So, like,
We're
if
that
I
old,
was doing,
people. We're that old.
you said it earlier. When you're doing something you love, you don't realize it, right? So, like,
Yeah.
once I would put shows on for them all day, singing and dancing. Because I would get in that groove and forget it. Like they'd have to be like, okay, kid, like this is your fifth hypothetical show of the evening.
Yeah. I would get on. I would get it. But you know what? The same with entrepreneurship is because you push past that. You push past your self-engraved limitations, right? Because those are limitations we put on ourselves. That's like the epitome of entrepreneurship. You push past those fears, you push past those limits that you set on yourself that I can't do this. Like, no, you're gonna do it because when you're done, it makes you feel. It gives you a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of. I've met businessmen that make a lot of money, and eh, you can still tell something's missing. Something's
Mhm.
missing because they're making all this money for what? So I knew someone several years ago that he managed people's wealth. And I asked him, what does that mean? Well, I help rich people, allocate their money to grow. This is obviously way before I got into the finance industry and the insurance business. But I'm
Mhm.
like, so what do you do? Like, do you speak to them? Yeah, it's just, he wore a suit to work every day and he went into this major bank and did his thing and had his business cards and it was all fancy smashy, drove a fancy car but you could see in his outside life, he wasn't doing anything to develop himself. He was like very frat boy mentality when it's like, dude, you graduated college over 10 years ago. What are you doing? You
Oh
know,
gosh.
because you're still looking for something. You're still looking to
Mhm.
fulfill something that you haven't fulfilled because you were chasing the money, you know? Um, Money can be fulfilling to some people, but the majority of people, they want, like you said, right, to fulfill that why, that initial spark, that initial need, because that's all that sales really is, right? You're fulfilling a need that people are looking for. It's
Mhm.
the same thing with entrepreneurship. You're fulfilling that need inside of you. And if you want to be successful, make sure you do something that you love doing and with the right people, because that's important too, right? I've walked away from businesses and companies, and the company I was with was an MLM because there was lack of integrity, and I won't. I walked away from six figures before because I didn't like the the lack of integrity and the way that people were treated. It's like I don't want to be part of this organization, you know? And it's just the type of person I am. If I can't help people and help people grow, what's the point?
Lastly, for me, I'll say what it means to be an entrepreneur for me is to be bold and courageous. Kind of going back to what we were just talking about, that fear and anxiety. I remember when I decided to join the worship team in my church some years back. The reason I did it, and I told the director at the time, was because I kept having this dream where I wanted to sing and I had like no voice. Like I couldn't sing.
Hmm.
I don't remember if it was like the mermaid, like when Ursula took her voice. Can't remember if it was like that. But I remember I kept having this recurring dream. And I was like, what the heck? So I told her, I said, I want to join because I feel like God, I believe in God. So you will hear me talk about my faith on this podcast. But I was like, I feel like God gave me this gift to do this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not using it because I'm afraid. So that dream to me was like, I've given you something that I can take away because you're
Yeah.
letting your fear cripple you. And I was like, oh my God, the fear of even just like thinking about what if I wanted to sing one day and I couldn't. And it's because I was afraid, you know? So I was like,
Lost
I'm
your
just going to
voice.
join.
Yeah.
I'm going to join scared or not. And she was like, wow, like that's a crazy dream. And I said, yeah. And I've had it a couple times to the point where that was like that nudge, I think, you know, from God, like, girl,
Yeah.
put this to work because you don't know how this is going to bless you. And you don't know how this is going to bless other people. Like we're on this earth to help other people. You're allowing your fear to stop you, but you're allowing it to potentially, you know, not bless someone that can be blessed by
Yeah.
you, right? And I think about that. It's bigger than, and this goes back to being a leader. Like we take on things because we're that leader role. We know that, okay, we have to sometimes do things not just for ourselves, but for someone else, maybe someone on our team, our family members. For me, I believe, you know, like the church people will always say, like, the devil's a liar. Yeah, the devil's a liar because he knows that if he can keep me in anxiety and worry and fear, he's stopping my blessings. He's stopping my
Yeah.
blessings and he's stopping me from blessing other people.
I
So
agree.
when you put that into perspective, whether you believe whatever you believe, don't let your fear cripple you because again, you're going to stop what your purpose is and the potential to bless somebody else. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we're fulfilled by the people. If you're struggling with anxiety, what do they say the best thing to do is immediately think of gratitude, right? Because
Yes.
when you put yourself in a position to help other people or be grateful, it instantly changes your mood. So
Yeah. Well, for me, entrepreneurship is pretty much changing the lineage of your family, right? Um, you know, the I don't want to say any names, but the Arches started off with somebody that's crazy enough to think he can make it happen, right? Somebody that is a recording artist, huge recording artist. They made it happen because they
mm-hmm.
saw a vision, you know, and someone that had drawn a little mouse, right? I thought, what do you mean a huge city of just what is this? You know, like a fair, a permanent fair, and look at everything they've created in the land in Anaheim, right? But I think entrepreneurship is pretty much, you know, changing the lineage of what would have been to what can be, right? And being crazy enough to throw the dice and see like, let's do it, you know? It's something that's in you. It's something that's in you that won't let you sleep. One thing that I always say is when it's really in you, you can't sleep because you know something good's coming. You know something good's gonna happen. It's like that kid that's ready to go to the theme park the next morning, right? Try to put them to bed the night before. They won't be able to sleep, you know, or you before a big trip. It's like, oh, we're looking forward to this. I can't even sleep. I'll sleep on the plane. I'm so excited. It's
Yeah.
like that. That's what a true calling of entrepreneurship is gonna make you feel like. Like, oh, I can't wait. Like, this is exciting, right? But once again, it's part of the journey to have your ups and downs. There's not going to be 100% of the time that you're going to win. So be ready for that. It's being very, as you mentioned, being very resilient to your calling, being very resilient to understand that, you know, you're not always going to have wins. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
I
Because
agree.
another thing that I always throw out there is that if you think of the game of baseball, you can't move into the next inning until somebody strikes out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Be it you and the other team. Until both of you have 3 strikes, you can't move to the next inning. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes those losses are necessary. Those misses are necessary. Sometimes those setbacks are necessary for you to grow, for you to
Yeah.
advance in your entrepreneur journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with 100%. Like I told you, I'm what it means to be an entrepreneur to me is also, like you said, you know, being that role model for my family and
Hmm.
breaking that poverty cycle. And
Yeah.
you know, someone close to me, I won't, you know, say who, I don't want to put this person on blast or anything like that, but um they've been a visionary and apparently since ever, right? People always say, "Oh yeah, so and so." They've always got some sort of idea that they're thinking of. They like the idea of being an entrepreneur. They're a visionary when it comes to being able to envision what they would like. But one thing that has forever held that person back was fear. And I always think about
Mm-hmm.
that because I'm like, that person is being held back by fear. They have the resources to branch off and do these ideas that they've thought about at this point for years, but they don't do it because they're afraid. And I've already told you that I, as an introvert, struggle with throwing myself out there, right? So
Yeah.
I think about that and I'm like, do I want to be stuck in visionary mode, or do I want to move
Mm-mm.
forward
Action.
for me, be able to help myself, and then, help my future
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
members, my
I
future
totally get
kids
it.
and stuff. So, well, guys, this was such a great conversation.
Love it. And I love that this is the first of a series, right, of what it really means to be an entrepreneur. So I'm
Yes,
looking forward to the guests that we're going to have on. I'm excited because there's strong women in the entrepreneurial field. So it's exciting.
yes. Yeah, we got personal on this one, but I love it because this is where, like you said, it all stems from somewhere. So
Yep.
thank you for joining, watching.
Yes.
Please don't
And
forget to
subscribing.
subscribe. Yes.
Like
And
and subscribe.
rate the podcast. Ratings on Spotify help a lot. Share, like, YouTube, the whole thing. Follow us on Instagram, Women Entrepreneurs, and join the meetup. Join the meetup because we have these conversations outside of the podcast too. We've got
Yes.
Espresso Empowerment where we're coming together. So you'll have access to a ton of other resources and meetings and a Slack channel that we've dedicated just for you guys. Any woman in the insurance industry, doesn't matter if you're with an IMO, MLM, a different company, you're just starting out, you're thinking about whatever, you're able to join and connect with us. So please do that. All right. Well, until next time.
Yes. Yep. See you guys again.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Women Entrepreneurs. We hope you feel inspired and equipped for your journey in the insurance industry. Subscribe for more empowering conversations and connect with us on Instagram at Women Entrepreneurs. Make sure you join our meetup group so you don't miss any of our events. Until next time, keep shining and pursuing your dreams. Remember, your potential knows no bounds.